Hi, welcome back to another episode of Nobody's Doing It Right, the podcast for those who are uncertain. My name is Kat, I'm your host, and today's episode is going to be about the fear of being seen, which I talk about a lot, but I like to explore it from a variety of angles and perspectives. And this one is going to be about how you probably fear being seen by others because you fear seeing yourself. This is something, of course, that I've experienced in my own life and the things I've had to work through and really explore about myself. Because, of course, there are many reasons why you fear being seen by others, judgment, being hated, being whatever, seen as stupid or silly or frivolous or all those things, right? Being abandoned. And those are very much rooted in, other people. But I think one thing that's not talked about enough is that sometimes you might fear being seen by others because by being seen by others, you are also having or being forced to see yourself. And sometimes seeing yourself can be the scariest thing to do. There are many things that we hide from ourselves, about ourselves, things that we don't want to acknowledge or accept. And to put ourselves out into the world when we have these shadows that we don't want to see, people start seeing us. They start, viewing us in whatever way. And that forces us to now also to acknowledge those parts of us that we have been hiding because we can't hide them anymore. People are seeing them now. And if they see them, they become more real. And if they become more real, they're harder for us to avoid. The things that we might have been avoiding for so long that we've kept in the dark now have come to the light simply because we're being seen by others. So a reason why you might be self-sabotaging your efforts towards anything might be because you don't want to really see yourself. You might not want to see your limitations. You might not want to see what you think are flaws, right? Because you will see those. When you do anything, you're going to be faced with all those limitations you have as a human because you're human. You don't want to see your imperfections. Maybe you don't want to see whether or not you can actually handle something. Maybe you fear not being able to handle it. So to try it, to be seen trying, to have others see you, and to fail and not be able to handle it is hard to accept. So you'd rather not see that at all, right? And so you'll hold yourself back and not even put yourself out there or do the things you want to do or attempt them. There's a plethora of things that you might be hiding from yourself that you don't want to see about you that is now manifesting in you sabotaging every effort you have to get the things you actually want in life, right? You have something that you want to do and you have an aligned path you want to get on and you keep going and you hit the brick wall of resistance. And on the other side of that resistance is you facing yourself in the mirror. That's the thing that you're holding yourself back from because it's scary. It is scary to look at yourself if you've been hiding things from yourself. Maybe some of those things that you're hiding from yourself is that you are judgmental. Maybe, right? Maybe you feel like you are a judgmental person and you don't want to accept that fact about yourself. A lot of people don't, right? The ego can be very powerful and make you not want to face that and accept that, hey, I kind of feel like a bad person sometimes. But that's the only way out of that, right? To recognize it, to accept it about yourself. Like I do things that actually I don't feel good about, right? But maybe you do it because it's like, again, you've been conditioned to do it. It's all you know. It's what makes you feel safe. So I'm not saying that it's like you are a bad person and it's 100% your fault all the time. But, if it is something that feels that misaligned for you and it's so misaligned that you don't even want to look at it, it's important to look at it. That's exactly why you need to look at it because it's telling you that you don't like this about yourself. It's not aligned with the person you want to be. But of course, it is scary and uncomfortable to accept that you might not be acting in ways that you would think a good person would act in. Yeah. And that's okay because we're human and we all do that. But if you don't let yourself accept it, that is where the lack of accountability can be detrimental to you and to other people. So it is your responsibility at that point to look at that stuff and accept it and work through it. If you feel that resistance, if you feel yourself closing off and shoving things down all the time, there's a reason for that. And the reason is that there is a disconnection and a cognitive dissonance between who you want to be to get on the other side of that resistance and who you're acting like right now. And who you're acting like right now might not at all be what you like. And because you don't like it, you don't want to even see it because to see it would be very painful. To recognize that you are acting in ways that are not aligned with who you want to be and to say, yeah, I suck. Like maybe I'm a bad person or maybe this or maybe that, whatever. That's painful to accept. Now, it doesn't mean that you are that, right? But the more you hold yourself back from just seeing it and allowing yourself to be like, okay, I feel like a bad person sometimes, the more you're going to build it up so much in your head that you're going to start feeling that way. You're going to shove these down into the darkness so much that it's going to feel like your deep, dark, like secret self And it is who you are, because if I'm not like, if I am shoving it down so much, it must be real. It must be true. It must be so powerful. That's why I can't face it. And it's like, no, you're almost convincing yourself of that because you're not letting yourself face it. Most of the things that we fear deeply, when we do actually face them, they're not as scary as we thought they were. And this is part of it, right? The things that you're scared of seeing about yourself and accepting about yourself are not as scary and not as bad as you actually think they are at times, right? And maybe they are. But would you rather not face those things that you think are really, truly bad and work through them and stop doing them, or stop behaving that way, or stop seeing things the way that you think you're seeing them that makes you a bad person? I would assume the latter is what you'd want. But of course, it's easier said than done to do that. There's a lot of pain and discomfort in the process of doing that. But that is the point, right? That's the point. So if you find yourself wanting to be seen for your efforts in whatever way, and you keep self-sabotaging, you keep stopping your efforts, you keep standing in your own way, ask yourself if there are things about you that would be revealed by getting to the other side of this resistance. And how do you feel about those things that you are worried about being revealed to you? How do you feel about facing those things, right? That's actually really important. Like, as an example, for me, a lot of my self-sabotage was around my creative work, the work I do now. And I love this work. And I think a lot of the reason why I sabotage myself is because to be seen by others doing this work, I could maybe have to face the idea that I don't know anything, or that my takes are stupid, or they're not valuable, or they're not worthy, or maybe I don't know enough, or whatever, and that made me avoid doing that kind of work for a very long time. But when I started doing it and I realized, hey, you know what? Actually, yeah, I don't know everything and I don't know a lot of things, but how do you combat that? You start learning more. You put yourself into positions where you can start learning more things so that you now don't feel as dumb as you felt before. But had I kept pushing it down and resisting it, I would have kept keeping myself in maybe a more ignorant state. And then I wouldn't have been able to get to a place where I feel more comfortable and confident in my knowledge and my ability to articulate myself, whatever. So this is why I think it's really important to let yourself see yourself, which again can be the scariest thing in the world, because you might not know what you're going to see, right? You might have been shoving things down so much that you have no idea what's going to come up when that mask comes off, right? You have no idea what's on the other side of that mask. It's scary, or underneath that mask rather. It's scary. Anything could come up. So I get it. It's uncomfortable, it's painful, but that could be the reason why you're self-sabotaging, right? If you are struggling to understand why, maybe it's this. Maybe you just don't want to see yourself because you're scared of what you're going to see. And again, most of the things that we're scared of are not as scary as we think they are. We build it up in our own minds, and then the effort and energy we put behind not facing them makes them feel even scarier. The things we put energy towards, we amplify in our minds as important. So if you're putting energy towards avoiding it, you will start to believe, or at least convince yourself, that it is so scary. That's why I'm making myself avoid it so much. But if you now don't avoid it, you convince yourself, oh, maybe it's not that scary because I'm not avoiding these things, and it's okay, and I can learn, I can grow, I can develop. But to not even give yourself the opportunity to do that, and only self-sabotaging and not seeing these things, yeah, you're going to stay exactly where you are, and you're always going to feel unfulfilled, and you're always going to be hitting that wall of resistance and never stepping over it, and always staying where you are and feeling even more like the failure that you might be trying to avoid feeling like by not seeing yourself, So the irony is that you're going to feel that way anyway. So if you're going to feel that way anyway, let's feel that way in a forward progressive motion, right? Let's feel that way and also allow ourselves to make progress in the things we want to do, and to grow and to shift and to show ourselves that we respect ourselves enough to try the things that we really want to try, right? So I hope this was informative. I hope this helped you have a better idea of what it is that maybe is holding you back. Because again, I know it's not easy. It's easier said than done to look at these parts of ourselves, but it is so important. And again, if you do it, it won't be as scary as it wasn't. It's like ripping off a Band-Aid, right? You get scared to do it beforehand because you're like, it's gonna hurt so much, it's attached to my leg hairs or whatever. It's gonna be so painful. And then when you finally do it, it's not as bad as you thought it was gonna be, right? It never is. It's always scarier in our imaginations and in our minds than it is in reality. And yeah, I'm not saying that it's not going to be uncomfortable. Of course it is. But it has to happen. It has to happen. So if it has to happen, you're better off just doing it quickly and as painlessly as you can. Even though, yes, there still will be pain, there still will be discomfort, but you have to do it at some point. It has to happen, or you stay exactly where you are forever, and you feel that dissatisfaction with no progress, no motion forward, and not showing yourself the respect you deserve to, step out of your comfort zone and do the things that you want to do, right? So yeah, if you want to talk about this in more detail, feel free to book a one-to-one call with me. If you want to follow me on Substack and read my articles, you can subscribe. And if you want to follow me on social media, all the links will be in my show notes below. Thank you for listening, and I'll be back again soon with another episode.